Okay. Hi, Curtis. Just you and I at the minute.
Good morning, Richard.
Morning. Gary messaged me to say that he's not able to make it, so let's hope we get one or two more. So I'll share my screen and I'll do the usual. Um, and you should be able to see my MT5 four charts on one screen. Um, just move myself out of the way. Okay, so these are the four pairs that we look at on this what is the afternoon session in the UK, is the morning session in the States. And I'm just going to look at one of the charts and then explain something. I'm actually testing this week. I'm on the 3 minute chart, and I'm going to monitor my results and just see if there's an improvement on last week when I was mainly on the 2 minute chart. The other thing that I've changed is I was flipping between having the MA crossover turned on or turned off. And so for this week, again, I'm testing having it turned on. So basically, my trading assistant will not take a trade unless there's been a recent crossover, MA crossover. I'm looking at the two MA crossover. I'm looking at the 13 and the 200. So just here down the bottom left-hand corner, this that looks like I'll try and zoom in a little bit there. Just try and get in a little bit closer. I need to drag it down there. That's borderline. That's sort of touching. Not sure if my trading assistant will recognize that as a crossover. Um, but this is on the basis that um, okay, so we've got someone else on now. So let me just have a look, see who's on. Um, I thought we had three people on, but never mind. Okay. So I'm really just testing whether this makes a difference. I believe it does, and I think if I can find oh, I just admit, Tony, I didn't realise I'd still got the waiting room on. So if I go to okay, so we're going to go to a different pair. We are looking at on this pair. We were just wondering whether that would count as an MA crossover. It did actually touch, but I've got a feeling it won't count, but we'll find out. So I'm looking at the other pairs. I think the nature of the market today is such that we're not going to get a lot of trades on my current settings. Now, there's an MA crossover back there, but I've programmed my trading assistant to just look back. I believe it's about 15 candles. And if there hasn't been a crossover in the most recent 15 candles, then it doesn't count it. So on these two pairs that we looked at so far, there has not been an MA crossover in the period of time that we're looking at. Um, Now, I would expect because I'm because I'm working on a 3 minute time frame at the minute for testing purposes, and B because I've added the MA crossover as one of the filters, I'm not really expecting too many trades. I'm expecting to see less trades, less trades than I did previously when I was not using the MA crossover. So we can expect less trades. What I'm hoping is that the trades that we do get will be better trades. So just need to check again who's on. I've just admitted a couple of people. So there's at least 4 of us on right now.
Hey, Richard, quick question. I don't mean to interrupt.
By all means, interrupt. You know, it's what these
When you say you're testing on a 3-minute chart, your trend lines are still based on the 15. You're just looking to take the trades on the 3-minute instead of the 1. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. The way that Oliver set up the program for this was on the basis of how I used to trade Crossfire when I traded manually, and I always went to the 15-minute chart. So it was a 15-minute chart. So the 1 o'clock candle was the reference point. So we looked at the highest point on the 15-minute candle, and we looked at the lowest point, and then we looked left. And then I used to drop down to the 1 minute time frame. So I used to drop down to the 2-minute time frame when I was trading manually. And Oliver's programmed it so that the trend lines that are placed on the 15-minute chart are automatically correct on whatever time frame you're looking at. We had a few issues with that, but we sorted it, and with very few exceptions, we're relying on the trend lines now. So yes, dropped out. We used to start on the 15-minute chart. That's how the trend lines are drawn, and then we can drop down to whatever time frame we want to take the trades on. Now we started when I first started testing this Crossfire Trading Assistant. We could only drop down to the 1 minute time frame. We didn't have the ability to choose any other time frame. It was 1 minute or nothing. We've now got the ability, if we go into charts up at the top there, we can click on time frames and we can literally get we can get 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, any number of minutes. So I'm, as I say, just for the benefit of Tony and Helen who just jumped on, for this week, I'm testing on a 3-minute time frame. And the other thing I've done is I've increased my stop loss pippage so that now on all of my pairs, again, just for testing purposes, all of my pairs, I'm giving them a 5-pip stop loss. So therefore, I'm looking for a 10-pip take profit. And the third thing that I've changed is I've actually turned on the moving average, the crossover moving average. And I'm obviously, what day is today? Tuesday. I've only had 1 trade today, and yesterday I only had 2 trades all day. But all 3 of them have been successful. Now that might just be coincidence. I don't know, but certainly the trades that I've taken, because I've given the stop loss a little bit more wriggle room, and because I'm working on the 3-minute chart, and because I'm also having the extra security, if you like, of having had a recent crossover of the MAs. I've said, well, I had 2 trades yesterday. I made 1% on each one, which is my target. I aim to make 1% on a trade using Crossfire. I risk 0.5%. I want to make 1%. So I did that twice yesterday, and this morning the trade was semi-successful in that it didn't reach the 1% before I got out of the trade manually because I could see that the price was turning against me. So I got out, and I think I got round about 0.5%. So far this week, so that's all day Monday and Tuesday, morning UK, I'm up by 2.5%. So I'm going to continue testing those three changes and to see how it goes. Now, I need to look at those other two pairs because the thing I've noticed on, I'm looking at Euro US, and I can see that the 13 moving average, it touched the 200 back there, and that was at what time was that? That was 10:15. So that was 8:15 UK time, and there was a touch, but there wasn't really a crossover. And since then, the 13 has been steadily getting further away from the 200. So it peaked at that point, but there's still quite a gap between the 13 moving average there and the 200 moving average there, and the 200 is still heading upwards. So what chances do you think we've got of having an MA crossover in this 1 hour session? I would say that for that yellow line to cross over the white line whilst I'm on this session is probably a bit unlikely. I'll just try and gauge how many pips there are there. So we just got somebody else. So Gary's made it. Gary must have sorted his laptop out. So I'm just wondering how many pips there are between that moving average and that moving average, and seeing how likely it is that we're going to get an MA crossover. So I'm looking roughly at 0.5275, and I need to be down roughly to 0.505. So that's 22 pips. It's not out of the question, but it's a bit of a big ask in the next hour or so. However, there are two lots of news. They're both moderate news. We've got some at 2 o'clock, and it's the US dollar. And I believe the one at 3 o'clock is also the US. Yeah, it's the US dollar. So two news items coming along this afternoon, which may or may not affect these prices. But I'm just speculating that maybe because I've got the MA cross filter switched on, and I'm not going to override it. I'm going to let it run. So I'm on the 3-minute chart. I've increased my stop loss for all of these pairs to 5 pips. Therefore, I'm looking for a 10 pip take profit, and I'm also asking the trading assistant only to get into a trade if I've got a recent, and that by recent I mean within the last 15 candles, MA crossover. So not really expecting too many trades, but I say this so far this week, using these criteria, I've made 2.5%. So I'm happy with that. Now, once again, on this pair, this is Euro CAD. Similar situation in that the distance between the two moving averages is considerable. There hasn't been a moving average crossover. If I just scroll back, there hasn't been one all day. There wasn't one. So I picked the wrong time to implement this moving average, but it's worth testing. So this is going back to this is Monday. Yeah, this is yesterday afternoon. So there hasn't been a moving average crossover. There was another touch at that point, which was yesterday at 8:20 UK time. Just a touch. It wasn't a crossover. So basically, if I just confirm the other pair, the fourth pair, we look as if we're price is not only above the 200 moving average, but it has been above constantly for the last 24 hours. So that might tell you something. I don't know what it would tell you, but it might tell you that price is on the up. And I'll just click on that. I'm having to go way back for an MA Costello. So the other way of looking at it is the 200 moving average is it's sort of a key level, and it's an average, it's a moving average, and price always has to return to the average. So if it's been away from the average for so long, and you see this big steep rise following that period of consolidation. So there's obviously something happened. So again, there was a temporary MA crossover on that pair, if I can get it. So that was on the 25th, which is yesterday, and that was round about 6:30 yesterday evening. So prices has consistently been above the 200 moving average. Let's just have a look at the we've now got.
Sorry, just before you move on from that, on your MA crossovers there in your indicator parameters,
Yeah.
you got yours set as true, false, true. The 3 MA and the 2 MA. Is that what you've got yours set?
I believe I've got them all on true.
Right.
But before you came on, I was just saying I only my trading assistant only took 2 trades yesterday, and today it's only taken 1 trade, which I would expect because I'm ruling out quite a few potential trades by having the moving average crossover switched on, and I'm just determined not to override it. I mean, in previous weeks I've been overriding it. If it's been switched on, I've seen an opportunity, I've overridden it. But out of the 3 trades that I've taken so far this week, I've won all of them. So I won 1% on each of the 2 trades yesterday. Today wasn't so good. I only took about 0.5% because I could see that it was turning in the wrong direction, so I manually got out. But 2.5% in a day and a half is okay by me. And the other thing that I'm monitoring, and 1 or 2 people raised it last week, was the stop loss. So I've increased the stop loss on all 4 pairs and on all the 5 pairs in the morning session. I've just across the board, I've put them to 5 pips, and I certainly haven't been taken out of any trades due to my stop loss. So there's something to be learned in that.
You know the ratio. You know the ratio 1 to 2, Richard.
Yeah.
So I've managed to get my computer working. I've been at it all morning. The 1 to 2 ratio. You know, like for some of the morning pairs, is the 1%? Is it getting the full 1%, or are you using a bit more than the 2, like 2.25 or something like that? Or
I've been cheating in a way in that if you know when your trading assistant takes a trade and it draws the lines on, you get the green entry line at the entry point, and you get the stop loss below, and the take profit above if you're going on a buy. I sort of hover on those lines, and it tells you. Obviously, there's no lines on it at the minute, but if you hover on the take profit line, it'll tell you the number of pips or the number of points that line represents, but it also gives you the value. And so if I'm looking for $1,000 and my take profit doesn't quite make it, I've just been moving that red line up a little bit.
right, okay.
Just to be more consistent with my aim of getting $1,000 a day. And the same with the stop loss. If you check what the stop loss is going to cost you, if you like. Sometimes that's not quite what you expected. So I've been cheating a bit and just moving those lines in order to get the numbers correct. But the other way you can do it, which you sent me a chart the other day, I noticed that you had a risk to reward of 2 point something, 2.2, something like that. That's the other way that you can do it. It just means
it doesn't seem to be quite enough, though, sometimes, especially on some of the morning pairs with the commission and that and this, that, and the other. It seems to be quite a bit. You know, it'll come out. If I let it run, it might make 0.6 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why I have my spread limited to 2 pips, because even at 2 pips, the broker spread and the broker commission takes way too much of my profit for me to be happy. So I would rather not get into a trade if the spread is, say, 2.6 or 2.8 or 3. I'd rather not be in the trade because I know I'm not going to reach my target. So quite often, it's happening a lot at the minute. It doesn't mean that it'll happen permanently, but the broker spreads have been quite high in the last few weeks. And I don't know if that's because the volume of trades is down, and therefore they're trying to hit their profit targets by charging more, by putting more spread and more commission into it. I mean, that's how they make the money. So I've been avoiding. I don't think I've had a New Zealand dollar pair in the early morning session for weeks and weeks and weeks. But you know, somebody once summed it up for me and said it's a bit like the cost of running a business. If you've got a bricks and mortar business, you've got to pay for the building, you've got to pay the rates, you've got to pay the rent, the heating, lighting, and I think you've just got to regard the broker spread as a cost of doing business. Otherwise, it'll get you depressed. So let me look at these 4 charts. I'm just going to see if I can find anything. I'll go through my settings if anybody wants me to, but I just want to look and see what's actually happening. Right. So we've got here GBP USD. GBP USD has fallen quite a bit in the last week or so. It was up to 1.29 and it's down to 1.25, 2.6. So we're below the red trend line. So my trading assistant is saying, okay, I'm looking for sells, and it's telling me that it's looking for a sell. We've had a recent wave change. The green wave, we can call these wave candles, they're actually smooth Heikin-Ashi candles, but just so as not to confuse them with the actual candles, I call these wave blocks. So we've got the green wave blocks changed to the red wave block. So that's the second confirmation that I should be looking for a sell. Now the third confirmation is going to be the one that will prevent me from getting in this, because I'm waiting for an MA crossover. Now, if you look at the water ATA, and if you look over here, it's changed from no trade to short. So the fourth component, or the fourth filter, of filters number 1, 2, and 4 are all indicating I should be getting in for a sell. But for this week only, or possibly only for this week, I'm sticking to my rule of only getting into a trade where there's been a recent crossover. So I'm really looking for this yellow trend line to cross over the white trend line. And if you backtest any pair and you look for the situation where somebody else getting in, bear with me 1 second. So Helen's on. I thought there was somebody else trying to get in, not to wait. Oh yes, Alistair's trying to get in. Well, I admitted Alistair. Okay, so I'm sort of testing something that I believe is correct, and that is you've got a better chance of a trade if the trade has had a recent MA crossover. So this, at the minute, we've got three of the crossfire trading assistant filters indicating we should be getting in for a sell. But the fourth one, the MA crossover, is telling me to keep out. So I'm going to let my crossfire assistant do its job. I'm tempted. Last week I would have been tempted to get in because this is quite a good water atta situation to be in. However, prices having second thoughts about coming down. Now, part of the reason why I'm waiting for the MA crossover to occur is that when this yellow line continues to come down, it can either bounce or break. And I don't want to be caught in a trade that's going to where price is going to bounce. I want to wait until price has not only gone past that 200, but I would prefer it if it was breaking away to the south of that line. And as I'm for this week, for the benefit of people who've just jumped on, for this week only, or potentially not, I don't know, depends on the results, but definitely this week, I'm going to wait for an MA crossover before I get in. I expect to have less trades, but I expect to have a better win rate. And so far, that has been the case this week. So with this one, GBP US dollar, we're below the red trend line. We've got a recent wave change from green to red, and we've got a good water atta telling us we should be getting in for a sell, but I'm staying out of this because I don't have the fourth component, which is the ML crossover. This is still telling me I should be in for a short, but the actual price is telling me to keep out anyway because it's thinking about going back up. We've got news at 2. So my trading assistant is programmed not to get me into a trade from 5 minutes before to 5 minutes after. Let me go to a different pair. I'm just looking for something different to get my teeth into. We'll look at the CAD pairs. What's going on there? That's better. So this is very similar to the last pair we looked at. We're now below the red trend line. So trading assistant is looking for a sell. We had a recent wave change from green to red, and my water atta is telling me short. I could override that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let the trading assistant do what I've asked it to do. So again, I'm going to have to wait until this yellow trend line crosses over the white trend line. Sorry, moving average line. There's another reason why I'd be reluctant to get in, and that is that price is literally following that green trend line. Now, I know the green trend line is mostly effective before the crossover, but it still has it's a support line, or talk about support and resistance. It's actually become a resistance line because it's now price is now sticking above that green trend line, and that's not a good time to get in for a sell because it could be that price will react to that green trend line and go in the opposite direction, or it could simply cling to that trend line. It could come down all the way down. It might even not even have an MA cross when it gets down here. And then who knows, it could bounce or it could break. But that's not a good time to get in. 3 out of my 4 conditions have been met, but the 4th one is definitely going to keep me out. And I look at the pair that I've missed out so far. Yeah, all 4 pairs are in exactly the same position. The 13 moving average is well away from the 200 moving average. The 200 is still pointing upwards. So if you think about it, do I really want to be getting in for a sell when the 200 is pointing upwards? When the 13 is the general trend of the 13, if you just look to the left, it's rising, isn't it? That's the low point. It's going up and down, but generally it's rising. So do I really want to be getting in for a sell? Well, of course, we're looking at 3-minute candles, so it is possible to take advantage of a pullback. But you better. The thing I'm testing at the minute is the theory I'm testing at the minute is: am I better off getting in for a sell when the 13 has crossed over the 200? And I know from past experience that it's a better trade to be in. To get into a sell when you're in an uptrend is not the best trading position. You can still make money on the shorter time frames, but you're in a stronger position once the MA has crossed over. Let me see if there's anybody else waiting to get in. Can't see. Okay.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Alistair.
I couldn't get on, and then it let me in. It was just on a waiting thing, and then it flipped, and I got in.
Yeah, I must have hit the waiting room button when I was getting set up.
Oh, is that what it was? All right. Okay. Yeah. Well,
didn't realise it was on. Okay, so just in case you missed it, and repetition is a good teacher. I'm testing something this week, and I promised myself I'm going to stick to it for the whole week. I'm testing the 3-minute time frame. I've increased my stop loss to 5 pips across the board. So 5 pip stop loss and 10 pip take profit. And the third thing that I'm sticking to is I'm not going to override the trading assistant when it's keeping me out because of a lack of an MA crossover. So basically, on this pair, I'm below the red trend line, so that's telling me I should be in for a sell. I've had a recent wave change from green to red, so that's another confirmation I should be in for a sell. And my Wada Atta is currently, it was on short a second ago, but it's gone back to no trade. But the crucial thing is I don't have an MA crossover, so I'm not going to get in. And so far that has worked for me this week. I've made 2.5%. I've only taken 3 trades, but I've made 2.5% on those 3 trades. So I'm going to stick with it for the rest of this week. Does anybody have any questions? And does anybody want to look at my expert list and just double check what I've got on?
Just one quick thing, Richard. You know, we were on about you amending the charts on the take profit and stop loss. You know, the 2.5% you've made. Did you adjust it on those 2, 3?
Just on the one this morning.
Right.
Yeah, I did adjust them on the ones yesterday because I wanted to make sure that if I was going for a funded account, I wanted to make sure that a successful trade equals 1%. So I was shifting my take profit to make sure that I came out with, at the end of the day, I came out with $1,000. but I mean, I can do that. I can do that manually by dragging the red line upwards or downwards if I'm in a cell, or I can.
That's what I've been doing on the stop loss. To be honest, if it going, I know it bounces back down sometimes, but
Yeah.
I've been amending it up. If it's starting to go that way and near enough achieving it, I've been moving the stop loss up anyway, just to practice and play around with it.
Yeah, I'm a great believer in if, let's say under the current conditions on these charts, I'm looking for. I'm just going to get another view of this one. Oh look what's happening. Price has actually bounced off. It's trying to get through, and it's finding resistance. So yeah, if I was in a trade on this pair and I was up to, well, my target is currently going to be 10 pips. If I was, I don't know, let's say I was 5 pips if I was positive by 5 pips, I would be very tempted to drag my stop loss line up to just above break even. We keep talking about moving your stop loss to break even, but if your stop loss is at break even, you're going to lose out because you broke a spread and your commission will take something off whatever you make. So I move my stop loss to just above break even. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do that in this session. But yeah, I mean, those things are available to you, so why not use them? There are some people who, because they're at work or whatever, they can't do that. And I think that the trading assistant is going to be of use to them, but it'll be of more use if you're able to sit and watch a trade. I'm regarding the trading assistant as getting me into a trade, and then I'll come and manage it. But that's because I've got time to be able to do that. But let's have a look at the current situation on this. We're below the red trend line. We had a wave change back there, and the WADA ATA was looking good for a sell, but it's now changed back to no trade. That's because two factors. One, the explosion line was pointing away from the dead zone. It's now pointing down back towards the dead zone. So that is telling me to keep out. And that's due to the fact that price has come down and then it's found resistance when it's hit that 200 moving average. There are traders who are saying, we're quite happy for you to push price down, but we're not prepared to let you push it any further than the 200. So there's a battle going on at that point between buyers and sellers because it's hit a key point. The 200 is a key point. All your moving averages are key points, but I find the 200, certainly short-term trading is valid. Now, what we're hoping to happen is that the price will come down and find resistance and then go up again and then have another attempt at breaking through that 200 moving average. It may take several attempts at breaking through, and then we need to be a bit cautious there because that green trend line is going to offer resistance as well. So it'd be interesting to see if we get the yellow 13 moving average to cross over the 200. It may be that will occur round about the news. So what we've got to do is just sit on our hands and not get tempted in, because where you've got even moderate news, the big boys can use the news as an excuse or as a disguise for their price manipulation, and that in my opinion, that is how the big boys make most of their money, by manipulating price, taking people's stop losses out. So we were coming down. You may have been tempted to get in for a sell. you may have seen that it's going back up again. You may be tempted to get in for a buy. The big institutions have got software that allows them to see the total value of stop losses placed up here and lets them see the total value of stop losses placed down there. And they're just playing with us, and they just want to move price up and down, and then they'll push it in one direction or another, or sometimes in both directions, and they just take out everybody's stop loss. That's the game that they play. So there's nothing going on there. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah, it's similar to Euro US. They're just pushing it up and down. In consolidation, they're just trying to tempt you to get in, and then they'll take your stop loss. But what Atta is saying, there's not as much volume in the market now. And that's just in anticipation of that news. I think I'm going to have to go through my settings and just explain my thinking there. So this one's the same. Below the red, recent wave change, come so far down. Now they're just toying with us. The volume's gone out of the market. The big boys are sitting on their hands. We've got to do exactly the same. Yeah, not as pronounced, but it's still below the red trend line. Change from green to red. What Atta was looking good. It's looking not well. It's looking good now. It's staying short, so it's still pushing price down. Would I be tempted to get in and override the moving average? Not this week. You can, if you wish, override the moving average and just take a few pips out of this movement, but you can never be sure because the other three pairs are just moving them sideways. As I said, I've always believed that the stronger move is when there's just been a crossover, an MA crossover. Right, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go through my settings. I don't think there's any shocks on my settings, but I'm going to go through them. If something's different from what you got from me previously, it's just that I'm experimenting a little bit. So if I drag this down, you see a bit more. I'm doing this because if anyone wants to take a screen grab. So I'm risking 0.5% on each pair, and I'm looking at 4 pairs, therefore I'm risking maximum 2%. I'm looking for a risk to reward of 1 to 2. I'm looking at a 5 pip stop loss and a 10 pip take profit. I don't need a magic. I don't need a random magic number unless I'm going for a prop firm challenge. I would suggest that everybody uses their own individual magic number, and the magic number I've got for these 4 pairs is different to the magic number I use for the early morning pairs. Send alerts when the trade plays, so I get an audible alert. I haven't used this yet, but that's a handy little extra tool. It will send an alert to your mobile phone. You've got to set it up on your phone. Spread filter protection. This I think is a key setting. Well, those are key settings as well. Your risk to reward and your stop loss. But this is the key. This is what keeps me out of some of the trades that could turn out to be unprofitable or very low profits. I don't want my trading assistant to get in a trade when the broker spread is more than 2 pips. So on this session, we're pretty we've got a spread of 0.2, 0.6, 1.5, 1.8. So generally, on this session, we don't get, well, it's saying there no trading spread high, and there's a number in red there. So at the beginning of this current candle, the spread was more than 2 pips. So it would keep me out until another candle opens. But that's the only one. Generally, that's the way it works in the afternoon session. In the morning, the spreads are a bit higher. Okay, so that is important to me at any rate. Expert protections, as I said earlier, I'm risking 0.5% per pair. I'm potentially trading 4 pairs at the same time, so I'm risking a maximum of 2%. And so on a risk reward ratio of 1 to 2, that would give me a 4% profit, but I've increased it to 6 just in case everything goes wild and I end up with potential more than 1%. That can happen if you get a sudden, if you're in a buy and you get a sudden spike, it will take you out at 1.5% rather than 1%. Global basket, so that is confirming that all of these 4 pairs are tied together to get my maximum loss and maximum gain. Partial close, I haven't even played around with those yet. New settings, true, 5-5, and moderate, that seems to work. The crossfire properties, the 900 represents how many minutes you want the trading assistant to look back. And I want mine to look back to 10 p.m. last night, UK time, the start of today's Asian session. 180 minutes is the number of trading hours, 180 trading minutes. So that's 3 hours. I want to trade between 1 and 4 UK time. I've got, they've always been the same. False on a Sunday, false. So, I want to exit on my take profit only. Heikin-Ashi settings, I've got mine set to 13. I was watching Paul's live. I was watching the replay of Paul's live yesterday, and apparently he's got, I believe, 31. Yeah, I used to set these a bit higher, but I've noticed that it doesn't really make any visible difference. So that the 4 and the 10 is as it came out the box. The FVG settings, I put mine on false, but I don't use FVG, and I've also changed those to 0. The HMA settings are irrelevant because my trading assistant doesn't look at the HMA. Right, so to answer Gary's questions, I've got all those 3 on true. It's worked so far this week. And I've got the EMA candle look back to 12. So basically what that's saying is if the other 3 filters are telling me to get in for a sell, my trading assistant will look back 12 candles. And if there hasn't been if there hasn't been a MA crossover within those 12 candles, it'll discount the MA crossover. Certainly, the most recent crossover on this pair is well over 12 candles. Therefore, I'm not going to be getting in any trades anytime soon. We have to wait until this MA crossovers, the yellow MA crosses over the white MA. And go back to, that's not what I wanted. Mind you, whilst I'm here, that's my indicator list. I've got one HA smooth, which is 13. I've got 3 moving averages, but two of them are set on 200. So I've got one on 13 and two on 200, and then I've got the one at somebody was in chat there. Helen's got tree cutting next door and she can't hear a thing. Okay, Helen, no problem. Catch you later. Okay, so those are my indicators. One thing that I do just out of habit these days is I come to my indicator panel before I start trading, and I just clean it up. I just want one of all the relevant indicators that I'm using. I don't want duplicates. It takes up.
Are they going to try and sort that out?
Yeah, I believe Oliver's on the case at the minute, but it's a bit annoying every time you load them up. When I came on here this morning, there were three versions of everything.
They might have several times a day, I think. So moving from one chart to another to prepare for the next session, and then they go back again, and then you're doing it again.
Yeah, Oliver said he was working on that, probably for the next version. So close those and come back to my expert list. So we've been down here, we got as far as the crossover, didn't we? So the three moving averages are so it looks back for 12 candles. So 12 3-minute candles, it looks back, and if the MA crossover has occurred within those 12 times 3 minutes, it'll accept it, and if not, it'll ignore it. So I've got a fast moving average of 13, which is gold. And then I've duplicated the 200. They're both white. So you can only see two on the screen. But there, that's what we call the slow moving average. The W, yeah, I've got the WAE filter. And I've got the indicator switched on. I've got those numbers all as it came out the box. And I've just got the water atta data, which is this panel here in the top left-hand corner. And I've also got the manual trade panel, which is here. And so that's everything I've got on my expert list. Let's go back and have a look at the pairs, see if we can spot anything. Okay. So what I need to do is get rid of that. Let's just go through and say what we see. Right, okay, so this is looking useful. Unfortunately, we're 1 minute away from the news restriction. So this current candle at some point will change to, this will change to no trading because of news in less than 1 minute. But it's looking favorable because the 13 moving average is still pointing down. The 200 moving average is beginning to level out. So we may well get an MA crossover during or just after this news. And you can see the volumes disappeared out of the market. The main people in the market at the minute are the sellers, pushing price down, trying to break it past that 200 moving average. But I don't want to be in a trade when there's news. So currently saying looking for a buy signal, but it will in a minute. You'll get notice that there is no trading because of news. And I suspect that all four pairs will be pretty much the same. Can you see how Price has just been going up and down, up and down. They're just sitting on the hands. I look at the other US dollar pair because I believe the news was on the US dollar. Lots of sideways movement going on. Volume gone out of the market. A bit longer term, we've got the 13 moving out. It's still pointing down, but the 200 is still pointing upwards. We need an MA crossover to occur. And then if I look at the Canadian dollar pairs, a bit more action here. So price is, we're looking for a buy signal because we're above the green trend line, but can you see how price is finding resistance at that red trend line? There's a panel here which the heading is distant from lines, and that's all to do with the distance between the red and the green trend line. And I asked Oliver to give me the option of, let's say price was down here, but it was obviously moving upwards. I would want to know how many pips there were before it hit that red line, and he's actually got that to calculate it, but I need to test that. I wouldn't get in for a buy right now because it's way too close to the red line, but if it was down here somewhere, I might think about getting in. What it's saying here is you can look for a sell trade, but it's too close to look for a buy trade. So it's telling me to keep out of a buy at the minute. It's too close to that. Again, the volume's gone out of the market. The explosion line is completely flat. It's sitting exactly on top of the dead zone line.
Richard,
Yeah.
Is it Tony's 3 minutes? He was doing the 3 minute, wasn't he? Is that right? Had you thought of looking at, if this is on the 3 minute now, looking at the 1 minute chart in conjunction to see what that's actually doing on the lower time frame, just as a interest sake to see where that's headed?
Yeah.
Because early on, the 1 minute, when you're looking at a sell on the GBP CAD, I think it was, the 1 minute was definitely on and up, and that's in that little candle pinged up. You said it's giving resistance. I mean, I don't know whether it's going to add to the confusion or not. Which, you know, just
I tried 1 minute for quite a while, Alistair. And what I asked Richard that the market just didn't look the same. You know, you're supposed to be getting in when we were doing it manually. I found out that as soon as it were getting in, it were going the other way straight away.
What
So
about
then what
I
decided to do is I decided to try like 5 minutes, 4 minutes, and then I got on to 3. And that's where I've had most of my success, to 3. It's sort of giving it time to like settle in. If it comes back straight away, then, you know, it won't get you in. That's what I found it would do, rather than, you're a bit picky, but it seemed to work.
Yeah. And have you, when you've been looking at on the 3 minute, have you ever put the 1 minute up just to see what that was?
No, I haven't looked. I tested it for a while, and I was
but at the same time, I'm talking about looking at the two charts, saying, well, that's what it's doing. The one.
No, I didn't. I haven't done that.
Which might add or confuse, or, you know, if the one's resisting the 3, then the 3 ain't going to go the way you want it to go. But I mean, it's sticking with the plan, really, as Richard always does.
Yeah, I think with the 3, I'm not that still learning about it. I just found out that it wasn't getting me in to potentially a losing trade. That's what I sort of seemed to notice.
Yeah, you said that. It was good.
Yeah, I've certainly found since I came onto the 3 minute that it's taking less trades, but the trades that it does take are more successful. And
you know, once you've so you've set the 4 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, you know, the testing you're doing this week then, Richard, you know, once it's took a trade from a particular pair, do you just forget that one then? You don't reset it and see if it'll take another one. You're just leaving that one out.
If I was purely trading for my own benefit, I would always be on the lookout for a second trade. And what I used to do was go back to Navigator and remove the trading assistant from that pair and then add it back in again. But now you don't need to do that because you can just go to this panel. So if you're looking at your chart and you see that there's a situation arising and yet you've got a notice over here saying already traded, that means that your trading assistant won't take a second trade, but you can take a second trade simply by clicking on buy or sell.
Yeah.
So
as long as it meets the lots of criteria that you're looking for.
Yeah, but because you know that you're trading it well. I was just going to say you know that the trading assistant won't take a trade. I have known it take a trade even when it said already traded, but it's supposed to be programmed not to take a second trade. And that was on the basis that we're already looking at 4 pairs and we wanted to risk a maximum of 2%. Therefore, you wouldn't want to get into a 5th trade. But if you've watched me trade over the years, you'll know that I've quite often got into a second trade on 1 pair purely because the market has given me that opportunity. So yeah, I would still use the same criteria. I would still say where is it in relation to the 2 trend lines? Where's the recent wave change? What's what ATA telling me at least, and hopefully look for either a recent crossover or a very strong sign that it was going to cross over, and then I would just press one of those buttons. But I'm trying to get to the point where my trades are what Paul calls his cowboy trades, and I'm trying to only do what I would do if I was trading with real money on my own for the purposes of making dollars. So I'm getting closer to that. So, but if I I'm looking at, I think Euro US is particularly prone to giving you more than one trading opportunity, but I have done it on other pairs as well. So, but instead of going back, remember I used to go back through the view and then the navigator, and then I would disconnect the trading assistant off one of the pairs, and then I would load it back on again, and then I would have to get my expert list and load that on again. Well, you can now do it just by hitting the panel, the buy or sell panel. But
just one other quick thing. You know, when I messaged you this morning, you said I was querying whether it got in early enough. It seemed it could have done it on an earlier candle. You had the same issue then?
Yeah, that was, I think the chart you sent me was from yesterday, and by coincidence, my 2 charts were showing exactly the same issue. And I've actually got a note to myself to raise it with Oliver, because it looked as if we both you and I could have got in a little bit earlier on a, certainly 1 candle before. I'm just wondering if there's a particular reason why it's set where it is. It might just be a case of Oliver altering the settings, the code settings, just to get you in 1 candle early. It could be something very straightforward. But I think I'm just going to go back through the 4 pairs now. I'll look at calling it a day. So look at this one. It's a bit frustrating because the price is broken below the 200 moving average, but the 13 moving average hasn't yet. We're still in the news, but only for few seconds. I would, looking at the water atta, that's telling me, well, it's telling me up there, it's telling me no trade, but in my eyes, I think the next candle ought to be telling me to get in for a sell. I'm going to resist the temptation because I'm going to wait for the moving average to cross over. So it's 5 minutes past 2. We should be out of the news restriction any second. Let us see what happens. Now,
You say yours is set on moderate, your news?
I've got my news on moderate, yeah.
Okay, because I've got mine on high, so at the minute, but
Well, the news is this. Sorry, the news is US dollar at 2 p.m. UK time. No, we're out of the news restriction, so we can, or the trading assistant can take a trade. My trading assistant won't until that yellow line crosses over that white line. However, the water atta is telling me get in for a short. I'm below the red trend line, and there was a recent wave change that temporarily went to green and then back to red. So everything's setting up for a sell. I'm going to sit on my hands and wait and make sure. Well, but I'm going to mark up if I got in on that candle, we'll see what happens. So instead of getting in, I'm just marking it up. If I got in on that candle, would I have a successful trade, or would I be better waiting for the MA crossover? And my gut feeling is that quite often that yellow moving average can bounce off the 200. You saw it way back when I was looking backwards. It touched it and then rejected off it. So you could potentially get in for a sell now, and then price could turn around because it hasn't got past the yellow hasn't got past the white. So this is me testing my theory, my moving average theory. I might have been tempted to get in for a sell, but look, it's not going anywhere. It's got very close to the 200 and it's thinking about it. The water atta is still saying short. We're still below the red trend line, and we've still got a recent. It was only temporary. It was only one candle, but that would still count, I think. I don't think there's anything to stop that counting. So we're right. So it might be continuing down. It might just be rejecting. I don't know. But a couple of other thoughts on that. Did you see that on this candle which was the 2 o'clock? That was when the news broke. It went down quite substantially, and then it continued down on the next candle, and then it continued down on the next candle, which is the one I might have been tempted to get in on. But on the current candle, it's losing a bit of momentum, losing a bit of volume in the market. And that might just be because the moving average is getting very close. And it lied about.
What I said before, Richard, I've just gone on the 2 minute, and it crossed the 13 crossed the 200 about 5 candles back.
Say again, Tony.
I'm saying I'm just going off what Alice was talking about before, going up to the 1 minute or the 2 minute. And on the 2 minute, the 13 crossed the 200 about 5 candles ago.
Okay.
So if he'd been on the 2 minute, it would have took the trade, wouldn't it? Was what Aratta's saying. Apart from it would have bumped into the news, of course. But if you
So
you're on the 1 minute there, I was on the 2.
All right. Okay. We'll go back. Minutes. 2 minutes. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Now the question is, if you got in at that point, did it go far enough up to take you out? It doesn't look as if it would have taken you out on a stop loss. 49. So no, there's certainly not 5 pips upward movement there. There's 1 or 2 pips. So you wouldn't have got stopped out on your stop loss. So yes, you would have probably been quite safe getting in. So 2 minutes. So
Well, I'm saying is what Alice was saying is if you're on the 3 minute and you look to the earlier one,
yeah,
and it's obviously if it's gone through on the 1 minute and the 2 minute, the likelihood is it's heading down in the right direction.
yeah. So the earliest you could have got in on this time frame is on that doji candle there, and it went up slightly, but it wouldn't have taken you out. And now it's continuing to go down. The water atta is explosion line is pointing upwards, but there's certainly been a reduction in volume. But it still looks like it's intent on going down. So I'm going to go back to the 3 minute. Minute. Yeah, okay. So on my trading assistant, I still wouldn't be in because I'm waiting for the crossover. On the 2 minute time frame, I would have been in. It's just crossed over. So this is the test. What very often happens is it'll break past the 200 and then it'll say, oh no, we're not going down. We've gone as far down as we're going. We want to get back up again. So there's a bit of resistance going on, which is quite normal. We just need to see if it continues down. Now, my trading assistant is thinking below the red trend line. Yes. Recent wave, yes, it was only a short green wave, but it still counts. And the moving average has literally, is it just crossed over or is it still? And then the water atta is telling me short, but it's changing at the minute.
It's flat as a pancake on the 1 minute. When the water is just kaputski.
Yeah. Yeah. Below the dead zone, so there's nothing going on. The moving average has gone from pointing downwards to being fairly flat. And the explosion line is pointing downwards. Everything's in the dead zone. So short term, nothing going on. Let's have a look at a bigger time frame. We'll look at the 5 minute. There's a bit more going on here. It's still saying no trade, but I think the next candle, the next 5 minute candle will possibly confirm a sell. But you see, it's getting stuck on the 200. Long wicks pointing downwards means indecision.
Would you have made the 2% on any of the 1 or 2 minute? No.
I haven't had a trade on the 1 minute at all today.
On the 2 minute, let's see where we are. Bear with me 1 second. So that's 2 minutes. So that's 2, 4. So that would be the earliest you could get in there. And that doji candle. And No, you wouldn't have made 1% because it only moved down slightly.
I've just put it onto Trading View now. You'd be about 1 pip up at the moment.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look,
No, it's not looking good.
it's difficult to see because you don't know what the scale can be different, but it is going down. But you see the
I
vol
put it on with a 5 pip stop loss and a 1 to 2, and at the moment it's about half a pip up. You know, you'd been half a pip profit.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back to the 3 and then see if it's going to get me in. Then I'm going to call it a day. That's minutes. 3 minutes. Okay, so it's the 13 MA has definitely crossed over the 200. The 200 is beginning to point downwards. It's certainly flat. It's maybe even pointing downwards. So both the MAs are pointing downwards. We're below the red trend line. We've had a recent wave change. We've got a water atta telling there's no trade. But if the water atta changes, my trading assistant will get me in. It'd be good if that could happen whilst we're on the session, but I don't think it's. I've got a feeling it's hit a resistance point and it's going to go back up for a little while. Let's have a look. There's a little bit of imbalance over there, but there's a sort of a turning point. It could go down to that point. Anyway, we're going to be watching paint dry. So, anybody got any last questions before I call it a day? I'm going to keep watching this because I think we potentially we might have 1, 2. That one's staying away, and so the 2 US dollar pairs, there might be some interest later in the afternoon. But these 2 are pretty close to the crossover. These 2 are not. And the news is on the US dollar, so these are more likely to change. We've got further news at 3.
Well, I'll keep mine on the 1 minute running, so let you know.
Yeah. I think it's it's a guide because what works on the 3 minute today may not work on the 3 minute tomorrow. It's just a question of finding your sweet spot, you know. But if you're testing things, you shouldn't really make 3 changes at the same time. You should only change 1 thing at a time, and then you get a true reflection. But I've changed 3 things this week. Anyway, I'll just keep an eye on it. So thanks for jumping on, and I shall be back again on Thursday. That will be my last session from the UK. After then, it's up to the internet what it does. So thanks for jumping on. I'll catch you on Thursday.
Richard.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cheers, Richard.
Just take the
Cheers.
bad weather with you, please.